going to go ahead and get things started since we're running a little bit behind. We have several members from the Child's Play / Chucky series here, which now celebrates its 30th anniversary this year. So let's bring up the director of the original Child's Play, Tom Holland. Star of Child's Play 2 and recently was in Cult of Chucky, Elise. He essayed the role of Andy Barclay in the original Child's Play and the sequel, and recently appeared in the last 2 films as well. Alex Vincent. She brought another generation to Child's Play in the last 2 films, Fiona Dourif. He started out as Charles Lee Ray and has been stuck in that body ever since, playing the voice of Chucky, Brad Dourif. So we have this is interesting in that not only is the original film 30 years old now, but the series is still going on. Cult of Chucky came out last year and was met with a lot of very positive response. So I want to start off with you, Alex, because you appeared in the first 2 films. You've come back now to essay the role of Andy once again. You appeared at the very end of Curse and now a full-fledged return. I wanted to get your opinion on just why is this series enduring and how does it feel to be coming back at this age to play Andy again?
Okay. Well, the reason why this series has endured 30 years is obviously all of you, clearly. You know, we just have had such a dedicated, loyal fan base. I mean, I think the original concept of a doll coming to life and trying to kill you is something that everybody's inherently been afraid of anyway. So we kind of just like, you know, pointed at that fear that I think people have already. Plus, you know, Chucky himself is just really charming and likable. And I think that has a lot to do with Brad. But here, did you want to say?
Is this thing supposed to be moving its head? Because I didn't know that.
I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
Right? Yeah, that's creepy.
Speaking of the dedicated fan base, I mean, this was made by a fan, this doll. And then this one is from the new film, from Cult. But yes, for me, coming back to the series after 27 years away, was a thrill. It was an incredible opportunity, exciting. You know, as similar to Andy Barclay, Chucky has been a huge part of my life also since I was 6 years old. So yeah, I was thrilled to come back and be a part of it, and we're really a very close family, this Chucky thing that's been going on for 3 decades now. So yeah, I was thrilled to be in it. I'm thrilled to be back in it. I hope we get to do a lot more.
Very cool. Christine, of course, you appeared and survived the events of Child's Play 2, and for those of you who have not seen the most recent film, there's a possibility that you may continue on in the series. So I'm just curious about what your experience was like being introduced to Chucky. I mean, Chucky was popular back then, but he hadn't yet grown into the cultural icon he is. So what's it like being part of that series, and how were you approached to come back?
Well, okay, I was 24 when I did that second one. I'm 53 now, so you don't have to do the math. So it's most of my adult life. I had a big break in the middle like Alex, but it was really fun to be involved. For me, when I did Child's Play 2, one of the most exciting things for me about it was being on the Universal lot. Because I'm a big movie fan, and being on the lot where so much history, you know, took place, and to be part of that family. When I went to the screening of Child's Play 2, the most exciting thing for me was the Universal logo at the front, at the top of the film. To belong to that family that's been, you know, over 100 years building of just filmmakers and actors, and being part of that was super exciting for me. Coming back, it's just like Alex said, I've stayed friends with Don Mancini in all the intervening years, and it has been a bit of, I feel like Alex really feels like my little brother. I feel like we're actually family, and it's extended all the way down the table. We get along really well, and it feels like a family project, and that's never happened to me before.
Tom, obviously with you kicking off the series back in '88, I mean, there wasn't any idea that this would, balloon into 7 films. I was curious about your approach in directing that film, because Chucky doesn't appear very much, certainly in the first half, until he literally goes berserk in Catherine's arms, and even then you're still very selective on where you show him until the finale. I wanted to ask about your approach in trying to decide how much to show of Chucky back then, because inherently it's a doll. It's not something that inspires a lot of threat right off the bat. So how did you work to make sure that this thing would scare the living hell out of people on screen? Because at that point there really wasn't a whole lot of doll films aside from the one part of Trilogy of Terror or the movie Magic that really had focused on a doll like this. So how did you approach putting this guy on camera, and when decide not to put him on camera?
Okay, Magic was a failure. The Trilogy of Terror is absolutely brilliant. It was a TV movie, I think in 1968. You couldn't get it on any network again. The Richard Matheson short story, The Zoomy Doll Prey. Anybody aware of it? Anybody know it? Okay. Okay, you do. I thought it was one of the scariest things I ever saw, and it was on network television. They took about a 1.5-foot wooden doll, like primitive, and what Dan Curtis did was he had to chase Karen Black around this apartment, and he put a 16mm camera on a skateboard. So it was about 6 inches off the ground, and he had to chase Karen Black, and it was one of the scariest things I ever saw. So you shoot back at the doll's face like this, okay? And all you'd have is that, then you go to the point of view of the doll chasing after Karen Black and slicing the back heels of her foot. Yeah, and it was really scary. And I said to myself, well, so you get it in time of history. After that, they developed the Steadicam. The Steadicam was first seen big time in The Shining. Kubrick did it with The Shining. So I looked at Trilogy of Terror, I looked at The Shining, and I said, whenever I'm in trouble with that goddamn doll, I go to the doll's point of view, chasing Karen. And it worked like dynamite. So whenever the doll started to show that it was a puppet, it took about 11 or 12 people to make the thing work. There was no CGI then, there was no way of faking it. I would cut to a moving point of view. And that is what, that illusion that the doll is alive and the doll is murderous, a lot of that is due to this gentleman's performance here. It was Charles Lee Ray that gave it the edge. And Brad is an Academy Award character actor, and he came in one scene. Think of this, he's only there for the first 2 or 3 minutes of the movie. But every time you see that doll and you hear that voice, you think of that first scene in the movie. And that thing has a knife, and that thing is chasing a little boy and a mother, and a helpless mother. And I constructed the visual sequences, most of them to move, so that I knew that whenever the illusion was falling apart, because the doll could only do what a puppet does, I would cut to that moving point of view. And then the movie worked from the first time I previewed it. I mean, it was through the roof, whatever those Chucky sequences, the action sequences with the doll. And I cut to keeping the doll terrifying and getting the bits out which showed you that it was an illusion. And I had a wonderful actor called Ed Gale, who's a little person who doubled Chucky in places like the fireplace. I built in large sets. I was a big fan of a movie called Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which was Sean Connery's first movie. And what they did there is they built oversized sets, and then they put little people in them, and I did the same thing. I built some oversized sets, and Ed Gale played Chucky, because eventually you have to get to the shots and say, hey Mom, look, no wires. And the movie just got stronger and stronger as I edited it. And here we are 30-some years later.
Fiona, obviously with you've come full force into the series playing the role of Nico over in the last 2 films, but obviously Chucky would have had a significance in your life before that because of your father, and I was just curious about when did you first realize the impact that that character was having? Was it ever a subject of discussion between you and your dad that he was voicing this little maniac in all these films throughout the years? And then at what point did you have the opportunity to enter the series as an actress?
Let's see, I entered the series when I was 29, and, you know, was thrilled and terrified to do it. My first memory of Chucky was being far too young and having my mom take me to visit my dad at work, and he was doing ADR, and he was screaming like he was burning alive, and I was like, Mom, what is he doing? What is happening? And I ran and hid under something, and at that point, I don't know how much of the memory is fabricated, you know, like 15 years later, no, just kidding. But I do remember that, and then I remember the kind of currency of Chucky when I was 12 or 13 and started to get interested in boys, and the fact that I was Chucky's kid was pretty cool.
And of course, Brad, I wanted to ask, obviously you've been the constant throughout the whole series with playing the voice of Chucky. At this point in the series, what appeals to you about the character now? What keeps you coming back? And have you been able to still find something new in the character each time out when you voiced him?
There's a couple of things that are interesting about the way the series is handled. Number one, there's been changes in the genre itself. You know, when it first came out, horror was kind of serious camp. You know,
Horror has been the red-headed stepchild of movies forever and ever. It is changing because of the huge success of it.
Then came Scream, I think it was, where it became self-referential, and Child's Play really did that. They came out with Bride of Chucky, which was much more self-referential horror film. Then it changed again. They were starting to bring back the old stuff, and then you had Curse and A Job for Fiona. So that's one thing that's been interesting. Also, Dom's been very good about changing his approach. And Chucky's been attacked in terms of the way he's written it a little differently each time. And I'm always like reminding him that all that's fine and good, but you know, it's got to be ultimately a monster. It's got to be this entity which is quite willing to change a living, breathing being into a piece of meat. And that's not there, the show's not there, but okay. Yeah, so his change in the attack has been something that's kept me going. And of course, I can't, I would never say no as long as he's doing it because, you know, I couldn't. She's my daughter. Could you? I mean,
Cool. Well, I have a few other questions, but let's throw some questions out here to the audience. We have someone with a microphone coming to you, located right here on the end. Or actually, we'll grab you in the first here. Go ahead.
Andy, was your first movie when you were 6? Were you scared to start?
Yeah, that's obviously the most popular question of my life. If I was afraid making the film, and no, I was not at all. I mean, besides the fact that I was a very bright 6-year-old who memorized the entire script, all of my lines, all of everybody else's lines. When you're there and you're doing the same thing over and over again all day long, you know, it really took a lot of work. 10 puppeteers to try to get the doll to move exactly the right way so it looked real on camera. which meant, you know, doing the same thing 20, 30 times in a row over and over again. But I thought it was just the coolest thing in the world. You know, I was a 6-year-old boy on a film set in Los Angeles working with a $1 million awesome electronic puppet. You know, I wanted to be a puppeteer at that age. I thought it was so cool how they made him look real. But no, never scary, even for a second, for any of us.
Why is the doll moving?
It's up to him, I don't know.
I just turned to sit. Wait, did his eyes just blink? Okay, you gotta warn me about this. This thing is way too realistic. Whoever made this, great work, and I don't like you. We're gonna get you right here.
This is for Brad. I just wanted to know, what was the inspiration and what made you settle on the voice for Chucky?
I didn't hear that.
What was the inspiration for you as far as the voice of Chucky? How did you arrive at the voice of Chucky?
I don't know. Tom called me up. I was at I was doing something, doing a show, and he called me up at my hotel room and said, "Do you want to play a guy who dies and then becomes a doll?" Intriguing as hell, and might be some money in it. And very slowly, you know, I read it, and then I got that this guy was some very angry and very insane sociopath who was very dangerous. That's changed, by the way. Chucky now has this one component which has sort of happened over the years, which is that Chucky loves his job. You know? And I mean, that really wasn't there at the beginning, but it's kind of evolved, and I think it was during Bride when that really happened. That suddenly, you know, it's like, you know, Chucky started saying things like, gotta, you know, loosen up a little bit, I'll just go kill this guy, you know. And it suddenly dawned on me that that murder was a sense of play. It still has to be, like I said, serious. I mean, it's got to be understood. Horror is about monsters. Horror is about, ultimately about being prey, about confronting something with whom or with which you cannot negotiate. It's going to kill you, and how do you survive? And that's a monster. So unless Chucky's the monster, he doesn't. Still loves his job.
Hi guys. As a child, I saw this movie for the first time.
Why?
I had a dad who just let me get anything I wanted at the library. But he was also very good at claw machines, so my room was jam-packed full of stuffed animals. But it used to be they were just off the corner. After seeing this, I took them all out. They all got names. They all got their hair combed. I took very good care of them after this, just in case. My question is what is either like maybe the creepiest or the funniest story that maybe people have told you how this movie influenced their life?
So what fans have come up to you with very interesting or unsettling stories about their association with Child's Play or the Chucky films? To everybody, yeah, it's open to the public.
I mean, I'll just, you know, everybody tortured their brothers and sisters and children with these dolls, and with the My Buddy doll, and everybody ripped their heads off and buried them in their backyards, and you know, I think My Buddy came out a little bit before Chucky, actually. And then Chucky came out and nobody wanted to look at their My Buddy doll ever again. Which, you know, in a sense, Chucky killed My Buddy. So, I hear that all the time.
Anybody else have any memorable fan encounters or stories?
Yeah, my daughter had a slumber party. My stepdaughter had a slumber party, Cleo. And I was at they went into my office, which was a separate building all the way there. And all I have there is a couple of Chucky things, because over the years they make these interesting dolls and shit that are so fun. I had like that and a mask. And this kid came in there, and everything was going real. One of the kids put on the mask, and the kid turned around and fell apart. I mean, started sobbing hysterically. I mean, it was like, and I had to really, clear everybody from the room and say, hey, it's okay, it's all right, breathe, and then I got her, into the house, and I called her parents, and, I had to take her home. So, people really, what scares you, and I guess the creepy thing about that is it's really real.
So I have one. The day after prom, my dad was out of town, and I had a party in the apartment, and we have a Chucky doll. This was in Calabasas, and a kid came over that I didn't really know, and I think he had taken a drug, and he flipped out to the extent that we had to call the police and get him to get out of the closet. And I think I told you that story 100 years ago, but that was the biggest one where I was like, oh, this is not going to turn out okay.
All right, next question.
Tom, at all your film careers, would you ever think about, I've asked these actors before, would you consider yourself directing a superhero one day, superhero movie?
Would you ever consider directing a superhero movie if it was offered to you?
A superhero movie? Not particularly.
I think Chucky is a superhero in his own way, as long as you don't want to be saved and don't mind being murdered.
I would give you a Cape Crusaders and like James Gunn and that kind of stuff. Yeah, no. Oh, I've got stories that go on forever. They offered me Spider-Man, I turned it down.
Oh.
What?
Because I was an idiot. The Stan Lee used to come around and knock on my office door all the time. This is when he was promoting it, which is like mid-late 80s. And I really didn't see it coming, which is why every 2, 3, 4 years the business cycles in and out to keep up with popular culture. We change in age, the basic audience does not.
We have a question from Tiffany down here in front.
I got a question for you, Brad. So what was your favorite death scene from Tiffany?
Whoa, okay then.
What was your favorite death scene from Tiffany? From the Tiffany character? Favorite kill that Tiffany's done?
That Tiffany was involved in. Well, obviously it's when the during the champagne moment when the ceiling of glass came down and kills the guy in bed, and there's blood all over the place, and I'm like, what a gal.
Next question.
So this is a two-parter for Brad. What was it like working with the amazing Jennifer Tilly? And Fiona, what was it like playing your dad in your body?
Yes.
What was it like? She's probably the best improviser I've ever worked with. Jack Nicholson. He's maybe a slight bit better, but not by much. So I did, usually I'm like really lonely, you know, up until then. I would go into a studio and there would be just me there, and somewhere in the back there was a group of people, but I never saw them. I would just hear them through my earphones telling me what to do, and I would do that all day. And then, that was particularly on the third one. it got lonely.
Yeah.
You know, and so when Jennifer Tilly came along and I was doing it with her, we were both in separate booths. I was like so much fun, you know. And some of the best lines that we had that were comedic were just improvised stuff we did, just cutting loose on each other. Hers were, of course,
That was actually the question I wanted to, the same question for Fiona I actually had as well. How is it playing a character who's embodied with the spirit of the character that your dad played, and you're having to play that?
And make out with Jennifer Tilly?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to ask that directly, but yeah, now that you bring it up.
Yeah, am I the only one on stage that made out with Jennifer Tilly? I might be.
Sadly.
Yeah, it was just way more fun. I mean, that's the deal, is, you know, getting to be the empowered bad guy, the like masculine killer, is a lot more fun than being the crying, weeping, scared, running, disabled victim. I was like, finally. And I mean, for me, it's always more fun. And when I did make out, sorry to ruin if anybody's not seen Colt, but when I did finally emerge from the hospital and walk out and make out with Jennifer Tilly, it was in Winnipeg, Manitoba in February, and I was supposed to be barefoot, but the police came and were like, listen, she'll get frostbite in 20 seconds. It was negative 45 degrees, which is the same in Fahrenheit and Celsius. Everybody, the entire crew, all you could see were their eyeballs, because everybody was in like full freaking fur gear, and I was not. I was in tights and red heels. So it was fun. I couldn't feel my face or like anything that was happening. And there was groups of people that had to rush like blankets on me and heating lamps and stuff, because I would be, you know, if you don't, exposed skin gets frostbite in 90 seconds in that kind of weather. It's actually super dangerous. So I don't even know if she can kiss well. I have no idea. I didn't even experience it. I bet she can, though.
All right, do we take another question?
Right here. So I've asked Brad and Alex this yesterday. In the last movie, Malcolm got drilled in the back of the head, and the Chucky doll just sat down, and nothing else happened with that doll. Is there anything that's going to be happening with the so-called TV show coming, or the next movie with that? Or, your dad told me to ask you.
She cackles into the distance. Yeah, man, who knows? You'll just have to check it out. I know, I don't know, they're negotiating it. I mean, at this point, I think the end is open to interpretation, but there's a few of them that are left standing, right? Me being one of them.
And there's a lot of Chuckies now. There's still the head sitting back, and that you're going to be doing some very nasty things to, Christine, probably. And then there's still the one back at the hospital, and then there's, you know, Fiona now. So it's just, it's a Chucky marketplace out there. There's just all of them. It's going to be very interesting where they go.
Yeah. There may be many more than that.
Yeah. I would like an army of Chuckies. That would be an army of Chucky. Let's do that.
They can afford it. I think they would.
Next question we have in the back here.
First thing, I just want to say that I love all you guys. You guys helped shape my childhood as far as horror movies go, so thank you very much for that. Actually, my questions I have for Tom and then for Fiona and Brad. I always heard rumors for years, this is for Tom, that the original film was never actually supposed to show the doll, and that you're not supposed to know who the killer was. I just didn't know if that was actually true, if that's just scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt. Right from the horse's mouth. And then for Fiona and Brad, now that the newest film ended the way it did, Fiona, are you going to be taking more of a role in the series if it continues? And then Brad, are you going to be kind of stepping down a little bit with that, or?
I honestly, it hasn't been written yet. I never have kids, I'm telling you. Yeah, you know, until something is written, and you actually, even after it's written, it can change. Until it's actually finished cutting and you see it in the thing, you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if there's going to be a series. I don't know if there's going to be another movie. I do know that that it would be stupid not to, because there's money to be made. And I do know that there's plenty of people in Hollywood who actually want to make money. So, yeah, I would say another Chucky, another Child's Play, or another part of the series, the Chucky series, is going to happen for sure.
I can give a little bit of information. I know that Don Mancini, and also if you guys have seen a horror anthology series on Sci-Fi called Channel Zero, which is really good if you haven't checked it out. Yeah, cool. So the creator of that show is a good friend of mine and also my ex-boyfriend, and he and Don Mancini met through me, and they're pitching and selling the Chucky you know, through UCP, so it's also through Universal, but they're shopping it around. I think it's this week. So it's happening and moving now, and I know secrets, but I can't tell you guys. But I think it's cool and different, and probably gonna shift drastically before it comes to air. But I know there's a lot of real interest in it, and so I think the chances of it happening are pretty high.
Cool. Next question. In the back.
My question is for Brad. Could you please give us your best Chucky laugh?
Oh, he's asking for the Chucky laugh.
I actually don't do this, but I'm gonna do one.
That was really cool. I'm glad you asked that, sir, because otherwise I was going to have to do it. So thank you very much for taking the bullet on that question. That was so cool. All right, next question. Over here.
Brad, my favorite performance you ever done was when you were on the X-Files episode, Beyond the Sea. How do you go into preparing for something like that compared to like one of the films from the Child's Play franchise?
Well, I've done Chucky before, and I hadn't done that before, so I had to start from scratch. Well, I became like, I think 17 different people in that, because I was channeling all these different people, and I would have to channel one after another. And I kept trying to do it, and it just felt phony and horrible and wrong, and I was really upset. And I knew it was bad because my wife at the time was watching me try to rehearse it, and she went white as a sheet and like left the house. And she'd never done that before, so I felt I was in trouble. The night before I shot for the first time, I was doing, I remembered this person named Mrs. Bro, actually, and that brought it all together for me. It's, you know, a lot of it has to do with feeling. You know, there's a great deal of building a character that can't be said or even understood in any kind of clear way. I have all kinds of ways of attacking characters. I've studied a lot. But there's always, sometimes it's a matter of putting on a pair of boots or putting something in your pocket. Something, it just comes from nowhere. And in that sense, for that character, not Chucky, but for that character, it was Mrs. Bro. She just the feeling of doing her brought all the other the whole brought channeling to a point where it worked. I could go from one character to another character. It was a smooth transition, and it felt completely natural and normal. Does that?
Just before we take another question from the audience, I had actually a question for Alex and for Christine, because one of my favorite set pieces from any of the movies is the finale of part 2, which takes place in the Play Pals toy factory. And I was just curious about what your memories were of shooting there, because it's a really impressive set. I mean, just the location there. And I think you shot that somewhere down in Long Beach, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere over that set, or it had to have been an existing facility to some degree, I would think.
Well, you could ask the one who wasn't 8 years old about that part. But yeah, I just remember we spent a lot of time there. We were there for a long time. It was massive. It was really, really big. Like, the whole warehouse was really big. Sometimes they make things look bigger than they are, but this really was big. And there were so many of those Good Guy doll boxes that they made a really crazy, intricate maze out of all the Good Guy doll boxes. And I remember crawling through it and like getting trapped and trying to back out and find my way through a maze of Good Guy dolls boxes. But yeah, the whole thing in there was just fun. It was all fun, melting them down with the hot plastic. And we have, Don Mancini had a camcorder back then, and he went around and filmed a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that has never been released on anything yet. But I have like an hour of that footage, and he has even more. And there's great stuff on there. Wow. And you know, I remember people always ask me how much I remember, and I don't remember much else about being 6 or being 8, but I remember things that, you know, were really big like that. And I have a lot of memories of that factory just being really cool and just colorful, like that yellow and blue and red, just all over the place. It was really fun shooting in there.
Christine, what about you?
We shot it in Sylmar. It was a big factory, yeah. But somebody asked me recently where the actual factory was, like just last week, and I said I didn't know. So they found out in the building. The exterior is in Long Beach, but all the interior we shot in Sylmar. My memory, when it was really freaking cold in that building, it was cold. My sort of most significant story from the whole thing was that, and most people don't realize, is that Alex was 7 and he was under child labor laws, so they would have to shoot. He'd work like 6 hours a day and then to send him to his tutor and then send him home. And Chucky took 9 puppeteers, all of whom were union actors, so Chucky was really expensive to have on set. So they would do the wide shot, the establishing shots, so you'd have an idea of the geography of a scene. And then they would shoot all of Alex's close-ups and then send Alex home, and then shoot all of Chucky's close-ups and then send Chucky home. And I did almost, I'm like you, Brad, feeling lonely on the set. I was like the only one there. And there's a C-stand, like a metal stand with a red piece of tape on it, that's Chucky, and that blue tape over there, that's Andy. And then this person, like with the camera behind me doing everybody's voices. It's really difficult to act in that direction when the voices you're hearing are behind you. And I wasn't a particularly experienced actor either, so it was really challenging. So if I didn't do very well, don't blame me. It was really hard.
I had no idea. That's amazing. You did great.
All right, next question.
All right, guys, this is a personal feelings question, really. The whole series started with Child Play, and now it's ending with everyone calling it Chucky. How does that make you feel being in the movie and now you're seeing the names changing of the same genre and the same series of movies?
It doesn't bother me, but I'll tell you that I think that the series that Don is pitching is back to Child's Play, right? Isn't he calling it Child's Play? That's what I read.
Oh, is that what you read?
I read it, yeah.
There was like an argument last week or something. But yeah, there's some thought behind that, and I don't remember what it was. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah.
There's some intention behind it, or maybe something that has to do with rights. Does that ring a bell to anybody?
I don't know, but from what I read, what I thought, it might go back to Child's Play in the title. You know, the truth is, Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2, people called it Chucky all the time anyway. Like, oh, were you in Chucky 2? You know, so people called it that anyway. I mean, the title I don't think makes all that much of a difference. I mean, it is Chucky movies. They are the Chucky movies. So yeah, Child's Play, Curse of Chucky, Cult of Chucky. I mean, I like the alliteration of the new ones and stuff, but yeah, either way, it doesn't matter.
We have another question here in the front.
Yes, this one's for everyone, especially Tom. How does it feel to be part of created such a fantastic franchise, not only just with Child's Play, but Friday Night, and how does everyone feel being a part of the Child's Play franchise?
Thankful, grateful, you know.
I think this is a singular film franchise where it's been telling the same characters' stories for 30 years. I don't watch the Star Wars movies, so they're doing the same thing where the same. But it's a really unusual thing to have to see a character go from 6 to 36 and have everybody's stories stay true throughout the entire 30-year period. No storyline or character has been thrown under the bus or pretended they didn't exist, and it's a really unique situation as an actor too, to play somebody for so long. I mean, to play a teenager and now play an adult is sort of a fun it's a rare thing to play the same character for so long and to get to explore so many different things from one perspective.
Look at me. I guess I should answer that question. Yeah, I don't think it's ever really struck me in a way that it really is a thing that this character has been around for this long. And it's been a part of my life. And I guess since Fiona's actually in the shows, I feel like it's really, I really feel much more of the power of the character. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm too close to it to really answer the question. I don't see, I guess Chucky is a superstar. I mean, Chucky, I'm not, you know, but Chucky is, so he's very separate from me, you know. I'm just Brad, but he's Chucky. We're disassociated in that way. I like that. I mean, it's fun. I wouldn't really want to be a superstar. I like going where I want to go and doing what I want to do without having to worry about it. Never had to. It's really starting now. But I guess it is a really cool thing. I mean, that this character has been around for this long, and it gives my daughter work.
I'm thrilled because all the movies, all the series and everything, it means that Child's Play will go on. Child's Play kicked it off. And no, this is extraordinary, and Mancini ran, you know, the Chucky series. And so it's gone for 30 years, and it's extraordinary. It's just terrific.
Cool. Actually, I just wanted to make a comment for you, Fiona. You know, you've done many other things as an actress, and you've forged your own identity and done a wonderful job with the role in both of the Child's Play movies, or both of the Chucky movies that you've been in. But I have to say, it was really, there's that moment where you walk out of the hospital at the end, fully possessed by Charles E. Ray. And if I had not known you were a Dourif, I would have gone, yep, that's Brad Dourif's daughter right there. You channeled him so perfectly there that it was just like, this is a little scary. This is a little, I mean, how much did you just try to absorb from him, you know, and his various performances, or the moments that he was on screen as Charles E. Ray in the first one?
I didn't. I mean, yeah, I didn't. We had a conversation about, but you know, we had a very short conversation. But I think genetics was helpful. I think I've, in my career, apart from Chucky, I've played more killers than anything else. And I think that there's, you know, an intensity or something that, but I was just kind of walking also. But I'm glad that, you know, I think we look, he said the top part of our faces look alike, and we have the same forehead.
We have time for a couple more questions right here in the back. Clown? I wasn't calling you a clown, sir. I was identifying you for the people. I'm sorry.
But I have a question for all you guys. What's your favorite Chucky version?
Your favorite version of Chucky?
Yeah.
From any of the movies?
Or Chucky movie?
The doll itself.
Or the doll itself, you're speaking. Oh, the doll itself. Favorite incarnation of Chucky throughout the years?
You know, that's such a debated topic of people that argue and say about how dolls look different and everything, and they look different in every film. You know, I mean, we look different in every film too. You know, it's been 30 years. Any mass-produced doll for 30 years would look different regardless. Anyway, plus, when you are talking about a movie where a doll comes to life and kills people, you really need to have an imagination sometimes. But another key part of that too, where people say in the later versions the doll looks different, there's a major plot difference later in the films, which is that in the first two, Chucky is slowly becoming human. So he looks differently. His hair, like, it's receding, his skin becomes more human. Like, he looks different than he does in the other ones. So there's different reasons for why the dolls have looked different over the course of 7 films. But, you know, I love the way he looked in the first film. I love the way that the good guy doll looks in the second film, probably the most. Like, Chucky, when he's angry and he's Chucky, and in the first couple films, I think looks amazing. The good guy doll itself, I think, looks great in 2, and this doll was designed to look like the Child's Play 2 doll. So I think in Cult, Chucky looks really great also. Wasn't too thrilled with the design and curse of Chucky, as weren't many people. But you know, you do have to have some imagination and realize that, you know, many decades later, things would not look exactly the same anyway.
Anybody else want to chime in on their...
I thought he looked the best in Chucky, in Child's Play 2. For no apparent reason. I don't know. He just looked the best at that.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Right here.
Hi, this is for Fiona and Brad. How exactly did you get this role? Like, was it just offered to you because you're Brad's daughter, or did you have to go like through the audition?
So this is like, it's always kind of weird and uncomfortable question to answer. So I auditioned. I was first sent the script, and they were like, pick a role to audition for. I auditioned for the older sister, and then Dawn said that I might be right for the lead. And then I went in and auditioned twice, and then he picked me. I think there's a segment of the story where Dawn called my dad after I auditioned for Barbara, the sister, and was like, I think she might be right for the lead. And I got this adorable phone call from my dad, which was like, Fiona, I think he thinks you might be right for the lead. And as an actress, you know, at that point I had been auditioning for 8 years. It just interest doesn't mean anything. Like, I can test and test and test, which means they like draw up a contract and it's between you and 2 other people, and you still don't believe it after enough years have passed until your money is in the bank, and then you're like, oh cool, I got a job. But yeah, that's what happened. And then, you know, is there an element of that the studio was interested in, that I look like him, and absolutely, you know, and to what extent that played, I don't know. I'm super grateful for it. This franchise has been nothing but an unbelievable blessing and treat for me. and has helped me get other work, and the ball has started rolling. And yeah, and I hope that I do it justice.
I just want to close things out by just relaying a personal anecdote. I did this once before, and I've always remembered this. I was 15 when the first movie came out, and I somehow got in to see it. And I was there opening weekend, and I'm sitting in the middle of the theater, and there's a couple sitting in front of me, and the woman was not buying it. She just wasn't getting into this at all. First time she saw the good guy doll, she's like, man, that doll's silly. And she was just like not having it at all. And then when the doll flips out on Catherine Hicks for the first time, she's like, man, that doll's corny. And she's like not having it. But then when the doll electrocuted the doctor in the hospital, suddenly everything changed. She just sat there, slunk down, and she turned to her boyfriend or husband or whatever and went, man, that doll's an asshole. And it was interesting to see how what could have been a very unbelievable, unworkable premise worked, somehow managed to turn people around. And I think that's one of the secrets behind why this movie and also why this series has continued to find so many fans over the years, as evidenced by this incredible audience here today. So please give it up for our panel. Chucky and Child's Play franchise. Thank you very much.
And can I also say that John has been texting me since I was up here, and he says hi. And he loves you guys.
And also, if you didn't get to ask a question that you wanted to ask, we're still going to be at our tables for the rest of today, a couple hours, and tomorrow. So come by and ask any questions that you didn't get to ask here, because we'll be there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.